There have been 6 times there have been quarterbacks in Super Bowls, beginning with Doug Williams in 1988 at Super Bowl 22. Russell Wilson has, of course, gone twice and won once. And now Cam Newton will make it the 7th time as a black quarterback starting in the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on the evolution of the black quarterback, Stephen A?
Oh, sorry,
I think
I'll go.
Skip.
Yeah, is that all right, Stephen A?
Go ahead, Skip.
Yep, you got it.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I have a lot of thoughts that date back a long time to my days of covering some of the early black quarterbacks in the mid-1970s in Los Angeles, California. Since then, black quarterbacks have come so far, and yet I feel like we're experiencing another big breakthrough as we speak, because now I'm seeing black quarterbacks who are being highly respected and accepted as pure passers, as drop-back pocket passers, as well as very effective runners who can run called plays and hurt defenses with those, as well as with spontaneous scrambles. And this is a new, beautiful thing to my ears and eyes. And I'm just guessing, Stephen A., that this evolution of the pocket passer who can also run running plays, called running plays, is inspiring a whole new generation of young black kids who are going to play quarterback to say, oh, I can do both. I can be both. But now, if you will, just quickly, let me walk you back through what I saw in the 70s. I go all the way back to my days covering the Los Angeles Rams. Now they've come full circle.
Yeah.
James Harris was the first black quarterback in the NFL to consistently start. And I knew James, as they called him Shaq, very well. And even though he started, he was tormented by the fact that he was always viewed, even in progressive, for those days, Los Angeles, as a black quarterback, not just a quarterback. So he fought for his job with Pat Hayden, the USC Golden Boy, what was left of Joe Namath, and our very own Ron Jaworski was there, and they were all battling for playing time. By the way, at that point, Vince Evans was the starting quarterback in the mid-70s, and I was also covering the USC Trojans. So there were 2 black quarterbacks in town. And then I spent a week at this point at Grambling in Louisiana with this kid named Doug Williams, who looked like he should be a high first-round draft choice. And I've said this on the show before, but I called one general manager, whose name I will not use, who said that, no, Doug Williams, he said these black kids, they don't have the mental capability to play quarterback in the National Football League. We've heard that before, and I heard it firsthand then. I thought Doug should have gone even number 1 in that draft. He went 17th to Tampa. Earl Campbell went number 1 in that draft. I guess we could debate that. At least Doug should have gone 2 in that draft. And, of course, Doug Williams became the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl for the Washington Redskins following the 1978 season. And right along that time, I'd also covered Warren Moon at the University of Washington. He had to go undrafted, go to Canada to prove himself, and he was almost 28 years of age when he came to the NFL. And all he did was go to 9 Pro Bowls and be a Hall of Famer. Those were 3, James Harris, Doug Williams, Warren Moon. They were just drop-back passers. They didn't run much at all. They were sort of right out of the Peyton Brady mold, if you will, especially James Harris and Doug Williams. But all of a sudden, we had the breakthrough with Randall Cunningham in 1985 that led to more of the running quarterbacks. Even though there have been a lot of white scrambling quarterbacks, Fran Tarkenton and Roger Staubach, all the way up to Steve Young and Elway. But all of a sudden, after the breakthrough of Randall Cunningham came Steve McNair. We know what Michael Vick did, Donovan McNabb, Vince Young. And that led to Colin Kaepernick, RG3, now Russell Wilson twice in Super Bowls, Cam Newton, of course, now taking over the NFL. And let's not forget, Tyrod Taylor has star quality to me. And he can also throw it from the pocket. And if you want to call his read option number, he can flat out run the football. So I think we've seen that. I just want our younger viewers to know this has been going on for a long time. This isn't all new. This isn't just a recent breakthrough for Kaepernick, Russell Wilson, and Cam. No, this has been going on. A lot of dues, and forgive me if I went too long here, Stephen A., but these are all the dues that got paid, and you can see how it evolved over the years to date. But I think we're seeing another level of breakthrough now.
Well, let me say this to you. I don't know about the other level of breakthrough. I think we're seeing it. You have a point there, but I think that's the one thing that's still valid to monitor. I will tell you that the plight of the African-American quarterback that was once in existence. It's changed. That's no longer the case. You can't whine and cry about black quarterbacks not getting an opportunity, because plenty of them are getting opportunities. There's politics in every industry. I'm quite sure that behind the curtain or whatever, there are things that could have happened for African Americans at the quarterback position that hasn't happened. We lamented the state of affairs involving Vince Young just yesterday, because whereas Johnny Manziel can seemingly make one mistake after another with alcohol in hand, Vince Young is starving for an opportunity, and at the age of 32 has been gone from the NFL for the last 4 years, which seems incredibly inexplicable in the eyes of those of us who watch the game of football. Having said all of that, taking into account everything that you mentioned, understand once upon a time, the issue was blacks being capable of playing the quarterback position, not given the opportunity. That's not the argument any longer. Now the argument, or at least as recently as a couple of years ago, the argument was, blacks are getting the opportunities, but it doesn't seem like the sport of football is receptive to anything that's different. If it's not conventional, if it's not something that they're accustomed to, that they're familiar with, they're not comfortable with it, and as a result, people are denied the opportunities based on that. Now here comes Cam Newton. I mean, in the aftermath of Russell Wilson being only the second African-American quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl title a couple of years ago, on the scene comes Cam Newton. And when we talk about how the evolution is continuing, Skip, and ascending to another level, where I come in and I say to you it's something that I'm enjoying watching, is because once upon a time, it wasn't just how you played, but it was also how you acted. There's a certain behavior that came with it that everybody would say, well, that's what a quarterback is supposed to do. Well, in some respects that they're right, but not completely. And Cam has his own personality, and he's stepping out of it. And he's not just throwing the ball in the pocket. He's not just scrambling, but he's bringing a flair and a flavor to the quarterback position that was once considered taboo and was enough of an incentive for you to be denied opportunities. Now that's not the case anymore. Now it's all encompassing. Instead of looking at his personality as a critique or a criteria that should define whether or not he's worthy of such an opportunity, you're looking at the fact that it can ultimately accentuate to the point where it galvanizes the troops around him, rallies them around him, elevates their level of performance because they all gravitate to him, because black individuals that's playing defensive tackle, offensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, running back, cornerback, etc., they're all coming together. And when you're seeing something like that and you recognize the relationship that they have, the ability to speak their language and to lead, not just by example, but because you can communicate with them, that's one of the primary responsibilities of a quarterback, is it not? It is to communicate. It is to galvanize the troops. It is to make sure that everybody's on the same page, but not necessarily to do so in a fashion that white folks get to define how you're supposed to do it. They're doing it their way. And if it works, and it seems to be working, I think that could continue to open some doors as well. The Michael Vicks of the world may have hurt you because as electrifying as he was, when he got in trouble, he also revealed that he didn't study that much under Mora in Atlanta. You've got, Vince Young, he couldn't take the criticism, and he wilted beneath that pressure. And that was something that sullied him because his leadership ability came into question. That was problematic. Jamarcus Russell, don't get me started with him. He still should be arrested for theft, for stealing money from the Oakland Raiders, even all of these years later, at the tune of $39 million. All right? And then we had Kaepernick, who did quarterback in the Super Bowl, almost won it in that second half against the Baltimore Ravens. But since that time, even though some would say offensive line, turmoil within the 49ers organization, he did not come across as the quintessential leader that could galvanize the troops the way you would want your quarterback to do. Cam Newton is bringing all of that back into the fold. He's just doing it with a flair and a flavor relatable to those within the African-American community, and it's forcing others to sit there and embrace it and say, okay, it's just different, but we don't really have a problem with it. And I think that's going to open some more doors as we move forward.
Okay. Allow me to point out that over the last, let's say, 25-ish years, we've seen a whole lot of black quarterbacks get taken at or near the top of the draft. So that's a huge breakthrough where that stigma was removed. And again, Jamarcus
right.
was a downside of that, but Cam was a real upside of that. And then there are all kinds of McNabbs, and we can go on and on. RG3 was taken high. And by the way, to your point, which I loved, your point about Cam saying, I'm going to do it my way, sort of on the field and on the sideline with, as you say, a different flavor. And maybe the white community won't love it, but I'm going to be me. And he is certainly pulling that off, and I respect the heck out of it. But I thought Robert Griffin III was also trying to do that in maybe a slightly different way until he got hurt. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I think he could have been Cam before Cam, if you will. He could have done it his way and been embraced for it. That's just me.
Yeah, probably right. Probably right, Skip.
So the only two African-American quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl, Doug Williams and Russell Wilson, who did they both beat? The Broncos.
Oh, I was going to say, but you already told me, so I couldn't. I didn't want to ruin your joke,
Thank
right?
you.
Yes.
It wasn't a joke. It was that Cam can make it number 3, Skip.
Yeah.
Take a look at the back page now, though, of the Daily News this morning. I love this place. KD goes off at the Garden last night, so could Durant